Welcome back. You're watching Metropole Business Center. This is Tech Tuesday. We talk matters of technology, and today is Happy International Women's Day. So you can let us know your thoughts on this day. Who are you wishing a happy Women's Day? What do they mean to you? On hashtag Metropole Business Center, at Metropole TVKE on Twitter, and also me at Tabitha T. Muthoni. Now, let's move on to our discussion of the day and imagine a gender equal world. A world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all hashtag break the bias. So happy International Women's Day 2022 to all our women out there who have played a role in our lives and career-wise as well. And that's why today on Metropole Business Center, we celebrate women in technology. And these are women who own and run technology companies in the country and are making a socio-economic impact in the society. And joining us is Magdalene Wanjigu, who is the Executive Director, Nairobi. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and also online we are joined by Rosemary Koech, who is a Public Policy Manager, Safaricom PLC. Rosemary, great to have you.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Okay, great. Now, all right, first of all, happy International Women's Day to both of you women here joining us today.
Yeah, and happy International Women's Day to you, all the women here, as well as all the women in this country and the world as well.
Okay, great, great. Now, Magdalene, let's start with you. You are an accomplished non-profit executive with vast experience. I'm going to read this because it's such a rich experience that you have here. You are an accomplished non-profit executive with vast experience in the development sector across socio-economic empowerment, global digitization, and governance. Now, in respect to these, what is the socio-economic empowerment front looking like for women in technology today?
Thank you so much, Tabitha. I think for me, I would love to say that you know, the possibilities are immense, and especially with the advancements that we've seen with technology the last couple of years, and even with the whole COVID-19 pandemic. But unfortunately, as much as we're seeing many opportunities arising, we're also seeing a lot of disadvantages, that the women have to face, and a lot of barriers that we still have to, to be jumping through, just to ensure that we are able to access the opportunities. But as it stands, there are a lot of opportunities are available, digital work, online work, opportunities that have come about as a result of remote working, and now that women, you can work from home and still take care of your kids, or still take care of your family. Globalization, and now you can work for a company in another country, and while you're still based in your country of residence. So the opportunities are there, but still the challenges facing women and the barriers that are contributing to women not accessing those opportunities are still there. And for me, working in an organization that targets young people, and more so young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, I think then that it's even worse for young women and young women from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Great. There's so much work that we have to do when it comes to women in technology and opportunities and access to that. So let me cross over to Rosemary. Rosemary, you also have a very rich history or experience in your field. As a lawyer and also a public policy manager at one of the leading telcos in the country, that's Safaricom. How do you feel women in technology can break the bias and tap into the opportunities available for them? Rosemary.
I think that's a very good question. Thank you for that. And many times as women, we are our own, we're the ones who create our own barriers. It's through small things like imposter syndrome, not believing that you can do it. I think those are some of the key things that you have to break. And of course, this goes with believing in yourself. But it's not enough to just believe in yourself. It's about jumping in and doing the difficult stuff in a room. Sadly, but that is how it is for women. Just walk into difficult challenges, throw yourself in stretch assignments, do those things that will make you stand out. So I think as women, one thing we must be very deliberate on is to do things that are going to push you to the next level. And I think I'll quote one of the leading luminaries in the tech industry in Kenya, Shiko Gitau. She has a weekly post about, this is week X of the year, do hard things. I think that's the most important part. If you're to break it into tech, if you're to break it to be the head of whatever it is that you're doing, you must be willing to take the tougher last mile, and that is by doing hard things. It's not about just, I won't today speak to women and tell them, feel sorry for yourself, or we understand. No. It's about breaking the bias, is about challenging yourself at the highest levels possible and giving yourself at the seat of the table by doing that which is going to be, the next level in terms of technology, whether it's policy and whatever it is that you do. It's about doing the tough things that are going to help us break the ceiling. So a lot of times people will come in, are you qualified? Can you do it? It's by you proving yourself and, sticking to the tough things what puts you ahead. So that's my 2 cents for right now.
Great, and that clearly coincides with our hashtag Break the Bias theme that we are preaching on today. And now let us come to understand your story, Magdalene. Let us understand who Nairobits is as a tech company, what is your forte, and also your journey as a woman in technology or as a tech company. Rosemary has said we should, we should not limit ourselves. Let us prove ourselves that we can do this and actually really do it. So who is Nairobits? How has your journey been like being in the tech industry, competing with the big giants out there?
So Nairobits is a Kenyan non-profit that uses technology to empower young people, but with a specific target on young people from under-resourced, underserved, and disadvantaged backgrounds. So our focus is to use ICT, whereby we equip them with ICT skills and take them through a comprehensive training program, which propels them to acquire those skills and integrate into the job market. So we have been in existence for 22 years now. And Nairobits was founded to provide equal opportunities for young people from the informal settlements or urban informal settlements. And it started as a way to for young people to change the narrative of how people perceive of these young people from the slums. And they were using media, taking photos and designing those photos in a creative way. And then, it was seen actually they could do it in a very good way, and the ones who graduated from that program were snapped in the employment sector, almost immediately. And so then the decision to have a training program that was focusing on design and development of websites was created. And so for Nairobits, our biggest target is to target, these young people who have no alternative for accessing, higher education skills, given, the costs, the academic qualifications and all that. So we target 17 to 24.
That's both boys and girls.
Both boys and girls. By over the years, we realized that there was a very big challenge in the recruitment of girls, and girls were not enrolling into the program. And when we did, when we did our research and when we interacted with the girls, we were always having to do affirmative action. Was that we realized that there are many hindrances that were stopping girls from joining the program. Our program is quite intensive. It's almost similar to going through a university degree. It requires you to be committed full-time for all days of the week. And so
how long is it?
We have 2 levels. We have one that is 12 weeks and we have one that is 9 months. And when the students graduate, we work with business partners and we work with community-based organizations to ensure that they're able to transition into the job market. But ideally, overall, our mission is to develop these young people in a way that they can contribute into societal societal solutions. So for that, the journey has been that we realized that young women were struggling to get into the program, and it was because, you know, looking at the social cultural norms, a girl, you know, she's supposed to be more, you know, more at home, doing chores and all that. The perception that they have that tech is difficult, and so they cannot make it. And then other things like early unplanned pregnancies. Early marriages. So there were all those barriers, and so we had deliberate efforts to ensure that we were engaging with communities. We work with community-based organizations, and we have training centers spread across various informal settlements, and this is to ensure that we are providing safe spaces for those girls to access the learning, you know, safe spaces to access the facilities, because, you know, just accessing learning where there are no facilities, then it does not achieve much. And then ensuring that they're able to save the cost of transport. So ensuring that those training centers are accessible as possible. So we currently have 8 training centers.
Where are you based?
We are based in Mukuru, Mukuru Kwajenga, Madare. We have 4 centers in Kibera. We have in Kangemi, Kariobangi, and 1 in Kilimani, where our office is based. And we've seen through this, and then we had 2 programs. One was called SISTEC, which was ensuring that we provide those safe spaces and reach out to the communities and have interactions with community leaders, with parents, with civil society organizations, with government as well, so that we are also addressing the structural challenges that you know, that girls and young women encounter. And then you know, and it was a comprehensive program. And after that we have Girls Go, which is sort of like an advocacy effort to ensure that we are able to attract young women into the program. And this one is also interlinked with other programs that we have, where sexual and reproductive health rights, through a program called Right Here, Right Now, which combines advocacy, information, and knowledge for young people. And it's to ensure that they're able to have responsible living, which then leads to them having very few interactions, interruptions in their learning, and they're able to go through. And we've seen quite some positive results, you know, in all those efforts, whereby for the first time this year we had a 54% you know, young women applying into the program, higher than the boys. And this was not through affirmative action. They actually went through the interview process and qualified to join into the program. So for us, it's an indication that if we channel efforts towards breaking those barriers, if we channel efforts towards you know, supporting young women, girls and young women, and women in general to join the program, I mean, to pursue courses in technology, then I think we're going to achieve it over time.
Indeed, indeed. So Rosemary, you have heard Nairobi's story, Magdalene's story when they started out Nairobi, and so many young girls, maybe because of the perception of, you know, technology is difficult, oh, it's hard, I can't do it. Maybe you can help us understand briefly your journey, or how your experience has been like from being a lawyer and transitioning into technology. And first, let us also understand why the transition, what triggered or pushed you to change from being a lawyer to transit from law into technology. Rosemary.
Thank you very, very much for that question. And I think first I'll start stating that many people don't believe it, but I was first in technology even before I joined law. So what happened was that after high school, back in the day, we used to have a 3-year wait between finishing campus and going to your degree. I knew that I was going to law school, but I knew that there was a very huge gap, a very huge technological gap based on the education that I had. So I quickly enrolled for a diploma in IT, and that's how I ended up. But of course, when I dived into law school, it was all about, you know, cases, precedent, and the legal things that we do on a day-to-day basis. And I always yearned for a way in which to get back to the fold, into the technology fold. Lucky for me, I walked into society when technology was now becoming a big thing, and I could quickly now revert to the old learnings that I had had in technology school, of course, but not just old learnings, but even the follow-ups that I've been doing of the industry. So I think for me that was very critical. But importantly was, of course, finding a home in a company that is moving to transform lives and is converting itself to a technology company, and that is Safaricom. I think at Safaricom there have been great opportunities to actually stretch the technological bit in projects, in the things you do, in the colleagues that you interact with, and actually be part of actually being part of a transformation that is seeing technology. So we have programs like Women in Technology, where we engage women to come and join in, not just internally as Safaricom, but also people from outside. And then there's also a corporation that is intentional about inclusion. So that has been very important, especially right from even supply chain, even human resources and all that. So I think for me, that is my small journey, but also thankful for the fact that, things have aligned. It's so the thought here is that it just doesn't come by mistake. You have to actually put yourself in the right positions right from the start, and now things eventually align. So that's a snapshot of the story.
Great. And positioning yourself is very critical when it comes to, personal growth. So, Rosemary, based on your career journey, how have you dealt with some of the challenges that you've faced, and maybe what are some of these challenges?
Some of the challenges that I have faced have been, of course, I mentioned earlier, imposter syndrome was one of the things that I dealt with earlier on. I remember I used to ask myself, can I do this? Can I not do this? But I think that the secret to that is just diving right into it, avoiding analysis paralysis, and just diving right into tasks very quickly and moving. But of course, another thing is also teamwork. The people that you engage with will really help, both inside of work and outside of work, building collaborations that are useful for you professionally and even in your day-to-day assignments. I think those help with dealing with challenges, but also being honest with yourself about is this situation working, is it not working, and how then do I shape up to improve particular situations. So dealing with challenges, there's no other way about it. Taking challenges head on and dealing with them. You can't circle around them and say, I want to avoid it. Yeah. And sometimes challenges are a good thing, because what they do is that they help build you, and they also help give you honest feedback about maybe how you're undertaking particular challenges. So that's just about it in a nutshell.
Great. And now we'll come to some of the challenges that you have faced, Magdalene, on your end. But let's quickly jump into policies. And Rosemary, as a public policy manager, what can you say are some of the policies that should be put in place to ensure equality for women in technology, that is in both public and private sectors? And how can a woman fight for her rights? For example, equal pay being in a situation such as that.
I think the policies that should be put in place for such is actually openness. If it's you talked about equal pay, there needs to be openness in terms of particular roles. Like I've seen organizations where you actually have, say, bands where a salary range is there for a particular role. I think those are very important. And at that point, it wouldn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. You'll be able to fight for your place at the table and to actually ensure that you're being compensated for your worth. I think that's one of the policies. Other policies include, like the ones I had mentioned, diversity and inclusion. If your company is growing in a particular way, who are you using as your suppliers? Are you adding women to the production scheme? And I'm very happy even to hear about the work that Nairobit is doing. This is a leading woman who's actually putting herself forward to help build traction. So I think critical engagements with like-minded individuals who are willing to fill particular gaps are very, very important. I think those are some of the key things. But also from a policy perspective, it's also engaging your legislators. For me, this is a very passionate thing for me, because that's part of my work. In terms of policy, you help to shape policy, help to implement policy. And the critical thing here is to actually reach out to our leaders and actually state, these are the challenges that are there. I think ahead of this particular day, International Women's Day, we saw very graphic footage of a woman being harassed. And it was a stark reminder that as much as we have moved very far ahead as women, there's still a lot that needs to be done in terms of handling the basics. So it's also about enforcement. Let's see what the police will do. Let's see what our law enforcement will do to actually enforce women's rights. So I think for me it was a stark reminder that we have come a long way, but there's still so much that needs to be done in the background, and not just from and this is in layers. Starting from home, I have a daughter. I tell her that Pauline, you're going to be somebody great. Do it as well as you can. I was raised by a father who didn't care who was number one. He always said, I don't care if it's a boy who's number one. Who is that person that has beaten you? Because it goes down to you being a person. And then, of course, in organizations, including women in leadership, including them in thought processes, including women in decision making, and then outside the organization, including women to shape how your organization is by including female suppliers. And then now up in terms of leadership, including women's in leadership roles, electing women. Thank God for the women rep positions, but also just praying that as we move forward, we're more conscious about gender biases, and even more importantly, our subliminal biases as society. How are we going to deal with that? It's enough for us to have policies in paper, but we must have a renaissance today that, things need to be done better in terms of women.
Great, thank you, Rosemary. Now, Magdalene, let's come to you, and maybe you can take us through some of the challenges that you're facing and how you have been able, to navigate through them very briefly, and also maybe your next intake and some of the growth opportunities that are in place for Nairobians and also for you as a techie.
Well, one, my background is actually in communications. I've worked in the youth sector, but trying to get young people to be involved in national processes, regional processes, advocating for policies, and advocating for policies that that are favorable for young people. And also women. For challenges as a woman in leadership, challenges are there, but I think the satisfaction that comes with seeing the results of the work that we do at times override the challenges. But also I'd love to mention something about Rosemary's point about policies. Some policies exist, and people are always working towards formulating favorable policies for some of the things that we face, but enforcing those policies and the implication of those policies and the implementation of those policies needs to be the next, the next point of attention. Even when you're looking at equal pay, when you're looking at gender mainstreaming, and all those other things that are favorable for women. And for me, as a woman in leadership and having gotten into leadership positions at an early age, I was privileged to have met people who were very supportive in my journey, to have met people who were willing to mentor, but then also faced issues that face most young people or most young women trying to get up the corporate ladder. When it comes to equal pay, when it comes to sexual harassment, but then having women who are holding your hand and helping you, maneuver all those challenges is also very important. Something else I'd also like to mention is when we're working in our programs, the partnerships that we have witnessed from other groups. I'd like to point out Women in Tech was very instrumental and very supportive of our SysTech project when it came to mentorship, when it came to actually even donating resources to ensure that we were able to reach as many girls as possible. So having those kinds of partnerships have actually enabled us to carry out the work that we have and the success that we have enjoyed.
When is your next intake?
Our next intake is in April, and we have some very interesting programs lined up, which are very targeting women as well. We have one program with the British Council, which is on inclusive digital skills for excluded groups, and key among them is women and persons with disabilities. And we'll be doing an intake starting the month of April for that program, as well as our innovation and technology program.
How can they get in touch with you?
Just check our website as well as our social media pages. We have an ongoing application form on our website.
That's Nairobits.
That is Nairobits. It's actually just www.nairobits.com, and our Facebook and our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's just Nairobits Trust. Yeah.
Your parting shot on hashtag Break the Bias on this International Women's Day.
We've made progress, but then with the incident yesterday, it just shows we still have a long way to go. Right now, even as we discuss technology and breaking the bias, we need to remember that there's a very big digital divide, one which has also been exacerbated by the whole COVID-19 situation. And so even as we discuss about reaching more women, we need to consider and we need to remember that there are very many other women in excluded groups, in marginalized areas, that we, in both urban and rural, that we need to reach. But we are also looking forward to the collaborations and the progress that we'll make.
Great. Rosemary, your parting shot on hashtag Break the Bias on this International Women's Day. Rosemary?
I think the sign this time is hands crossed over. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So I think this time hashtag break the bias actually women crossing their hands over their that to show the sign for break the bias. And I think one thing I'll reflect is that the power lies in your hands. It's about the things you do, the things you engage with, and we have it all in us as women to succeed. So that's my parting shot. We can all do it, and we're very capable.
Great, we can all do it, and we are capable. Thank you so much, Magdalene Wanjigu, Executive Director, Nairobits, and Rosemary Koech, Public Policy Manager, Safaricom PLC, and happy International Women's Day. We take a short commercial break. We'll be right back with more.